Day in Douala, Cameroon. Thank you for joining us for another edition of the program Newsroom. 1 week after the October 7 elections in the country, a lot has happened in terms of politics in the country, Cameroon. Professor Maurice Kamto, leader of the MRC party, declared himself winner of the 2018 presidential elections in the country. This provoked the CPDM party and equally the government coming out describing him as a tribalist. This is happening when fake observers from Transparency International have been making news saying that the election went in hitch-free. Meantime, the National Episcopal Conference in the country Cameroon have outlined several irregularities that characterize elections in the country Cameroon. You are welcome to Newsroom. I am Dominic Memenwa Kimo. Stay with us. Let's get our top stories this morning put together by Gladys Ambo.
I was mandated by the people to kick a penalty shootout. I kicked and I scored a goal. Professor Maurice Kamto declares himself winner of the 2018 presidential election. This is the first time an opposition politician has dared to proclaim himself president. The move of the leader of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party has attracted widespread criticisms in Cameroon. The CPDM party is particularly concerned with several outings by its leaders condemning the move of Kamto. The regime has now coined Kamto's declaration as a tribalistic and violent move that was intended to plunge Cameroon to chaos. Cameroonians are still to come to terms with the fact that fake observers from Transparency International were duly accredited to observe elections in Cameroon. The impostors at the end of October 7, 2018, granted a press briefing with CRTV praising the conduct of the election in Cameroon. It took less than 24 hours for Transparency International to issue an official statement dissociating itself with what many have termed the Atanganji-made observers. Today, the ministers of territorial administration and that of communication have suspiciously remained silent on the scandal. 2018 October 7 polls, the Northwest and Southwest regions records 5% participation rates. International Crisis Group has stated that voting was marked by total insecurity, with people staying in their homes for safety. In other parts of Cameroon, Cameroon National Episcopal Conference has decried several irregularities. This explains why a total of 18 petitions have been deposited at the Constitutional Council. Joshua Osi of SDF and Cabrali B of Parti Univers wants the total cancellation of elections, while Maurice Kamto of the CRM party wants elections to be cancelled in 7 regions. This is Newsroom, trusted for information flow and analysis.
Gladys Ambo setting the pace there. Time for us to welcome our guest for this edition of the program Newsroom. Welcome Barrister Don Christopher. He is a lawyer and equally the Secretary General of the MRC party of Professor Maurice Kamto. Barrister, thank you for coming.
Thank you, televiewers. Thank you, militants and sympathizers of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement. Thank you, Cameroonians. Thank you, those who follow Canada English. And I say it's a pleasure for me to be on studio this afternoon.
You are here, you will be talking principally as far as the declaration of your leader, Maurice Kamto, is concerned. But time for us to find out from you. This Thursday, the court case of Ayuk Tabe Julius and others took place at the Yaoundé Appeal Court. What can you tell us about what happened there? Were they present in court?
They weren't in court. I am one of the lawyers of 3 that, in fact, came in and decided to defend the leaders, the Anglophone leaders who were abducted from Nigeria to Cameroon. We had filed an habeas corpus writ before the Mfundi High Court, wherein this writ was dismissed by the court, violating the provisions of the Criminal Procedure Code. Habeas corpus, I want to say to our listeners, is a procedure that is meant to bring the body. Habeas corpus is a Latin term, it means bring the body. And bringing the body in French, we know it as a corps de délit. The matter started in the High Court without the body being brought, and so we raised that objection in limine litis. The court decided otherwise, and now we had to go on appeal. And it is that appeal that is held in the central region of Mfundi, wherein is the second adjournment when they didn't bring the people, whereas the first opening day of the case in the appeal court, it was adjourned for the people to be brought. So on the second day, they didn't come, and we raised the issue and said we cannot go ahead without them being before the court. And at the time when we were struggling to take an adjournment for the legal department, represented by the Advocate General, to bring the people in court, the colonel who is in charge of investigation instead propped into the courtroom and excused himself and said he heard the matter only this morning, and that the procedure to extract them in fact will take time, and so pleaded for an adjournment. When the right of audience was given to the Advocate General, he brandished a document showing a production warrant which he has issued to SAID to bring the people on that day. They didn't come, and we unanimously agreed that since the colonel himself, who is the chief investigating officer and the detainee of the people in SAID, agreed that he will bring them on the 1st of November 2018. So we await that day patiently to see the leaders come to court and to in fact explain why they seized the court through their lawyers.
Okay, we're waiting for the 1st of November when the court case will resume, and equally are expecting to see Ayuk Tabe Julius and others that have been detained. The question many people are asking is, how often do you lawyers defending Ayuk Tabe Julius and others, how often do you see them?
We had a college of over more than 50 lawyers that applied to be counsels and were, of course, taken in, briefed by families and the accused person themselves. But the state decided to select among the 53 lawyers. And these 3 lawyers are the only lawyers who have access to these people. I don't have access to them. I don't have access to them, despite the fact that we have made several attempts at the level of the commissioner for the government, which is the prosecutor, call it in French, commissaire de gouvernement, who have done all attempts to allow us see them. And even at the office of the colonel himself, who is the chief investigating officer, we have never been given the chance to see them, and that the state does not want what they call in French attroupement, and that they have selected 3. We should stay and wait when investigations, preliminary investigation which is being carried out by them is over. They will send the matter to court, and then even if it means the whole bar coming behind them for defense, that is when we can file in our letters to defend
barrister,
them.
is it not contradictory?
It is in fact an absolute violation of the law. Okay. The law has been violated, and of course, you see, it makes us go mad and crazy. A detainee can decide to take the whole republic and even lawyers abroad, depending on his pocket. The state has no right to limit the number of defense counsels for a detainee. So we are saying they are violating the rights of the defense. And because we want peace and want to do this matter with a lot of serenity, and because we are very sure of what we will have to do, we have decided to allow the 3 people to carry out the preliminary investigations, and then we shall come in at the level of the court. But then we did not end there when we saw that these lawyers themselves, the procedure entirely is not moving as required by law. We decided now to file this habeas corpus application in order to cause government to bring them before the court, because there are a lot of serious international violations and international conventions on the rights of refugees, the reasons for which our habeas corpus is labeled, and we want to see government and its investigation tell us why they were brought to this country when they had refugee status.
Thank you very much.
Violating that convention signed by the Cameroon government on the status of refugees. That is the bone of contention before the High Court, and the High Court technically escaped it, and we are before the Court of Appeal.
We're always waiting on November the 1st when the court case will resume. Time for us to welcome...
Not only that, Mr. Dominic, we want the people be brought, the body must be brought to court.
Thank you so much. Well, let's welcome new
the cops, they can announce us the cops, not the cops, the body. Bring the body. Habeas corpus is bringing the body.
On November the 1st, we're expecting Ayuk Tabechilos and others to appear in court. Let's welcome Yoseve Kilian. He is a sympathizer of candidates Joshua Osei of the Social Democratic Front. Thank you so much, sir, for coming.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for you to invite me today post elections, presidential election, and my greetings will go to a very infatigable fan club of Canada English in Jakiri. You know where Jakiri is?
Yes, in the Northwest. Division.
They are now seated just beside the screen at Freedom Bar Inn, especially Yungan. You know what the Yamens in Banso?
Not really.
She's not a Queen Mother. So when Canada has those kind of personalities as fan club, you should understand that they are watching us, and the owner of the bar, Yeka Louis from the royal family, they constitute that core of the fan club watching Canada. Coming back to the after elections, we are observing like every other person the position that has been taken by the parties, the stakeholders, the international community, I mean the observers, fake observers, the candidates themselves, even though some of them are very mute, they are not talking. But we are waiting, and we have seen what you call the gesticulation of
we'll come back to that,
and we wish them well, because
we'll come back.
I will be talking about that.
That's our main topic. That's our main topic this morning. But let's find out from you what explains the fact that we didn't really see some top hierarchy of the Social Democratic Front. We're thinking of Honorable Mbandam, Honorable Nchinda Simon, Honorable Cyril Awudu Mbaya. We didn't see all these top personalities of the Social Democratic Front during the campaigns. What actually took place?
Well, I may not be well placed to explain that, but I also think that SDF should be undergoing a social actually told me that he was actually out of the country, evacuated because he was not feeling fine.
Okay.
And so for me, I was concerned about him as a very renowned national legal advisor of SDF for the time that we know. So for me, I think that SDF might be undergoing a transition from generation to generation, and there might be a wheel of time to see other actors.
Maybe can that have an impact with the performance of the SDF when the result will be proclaimed?
Not necessarily. The impact is not from those people. You know, the impact will be from another geopolitical analysis. I mean, the base of SDF that you always have started with that. Even though the attitude of always trying to peg a party to a region and to a tribe, have never bought that in a democracy. But the notion of what you call in French a political bastion, I mean, the base of the party is always existing. And you understand that that would have been a major explanation for any future failure we were supposed to be. And
now we're still waiting on the Constitutional Council to do that.
I think that the electoral law, and that's my problem, says we should not be giving tendencies, and our debate should be based on other things than trying to bring out aspect of tendencies.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's welcome Prince Obaka. You are a journalist. You write for The Voice newspaper. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you very much, Dominic, for having me on the set. A special good morning. Let me first of all congratulate you. I think that Newsroom is, like he said, is a program that has a lot of audience. I was shocked. I sat somewhere and I brought the topic. I said, I have a friend called Dominic. He said, hey, you know Dominic? I said, yes, I know him. Don't be shocked, Dominic. Someday you're moving the streets and a lot of persons are behind you.
Thanks. Now, let's welcome you with this question. You are a journalist. You have been on the field even before the start of the campaigns. You cover the campaigns and equally cover the elections. What is your take on the media coverage as far as October 7th presidential elections is concerned?
Generally, I think that the media coverage has been imbalanced. Generally, why am I saying so? I'm saying that when you have situations like this in the country, you notice that certain media houses are privileged. It means that certain information as a journalist, you don't even have access to that information. You only get it from other sources. For instance, you and I covered an event here in Douala. I will not cite the person who was concerned. We were shocked that the person who called for media people was calling certain media houses. And that even when you showed yourself that you were a journalist, you needed approval from another person like your boss, which is wrong. When you present yourself as a media practitioner, it means you are not linked with politics. I went there to cover an event, but the treatment given to the media person so far as elections were concerned, I want to think it wasn't the best. But notwithstanding, we struggled in the field. We had facts that with time I'll be developing as it is.
Sure, we'll be developing that. Let's welcome Tayofa Elvis. You are a political analyst and you are equally the head of the communication department of the MCNC political party of Prophet Franklin Ndifo Afangwe. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mehmet Dominic. Thank you for the millions of televiewers who are watching us right now, because it's quite an interesting program. We are going to be a little bit hard on the right things that we're getting today, and we're very sorry for the mood we might be taking, because what keeps people moving with the credentials they have and the credibility is the ability to speak the truth, no matter what. And so I think like what our colleague from The Voice just said, I think I managed more than 200 journalists as a communication officer for MCNC. I think those who have been there would be able to testify. We tried all we could. You know, you try to limit the media organs in terms of budget, but those who came uninvited at least went somehow back. Probably because as a journalist, I felt the type that even if a journalist comes for information, who will surely be informing people about your candidate's activities, you still need to give to at least talk with him. I mean, that cordiality is important. I think if you rate the 9 parties and their communication department without fear or favor, MCNC of Ndifo Franklin Afangwe stood tall, because we did all we could to work even with those who were not invited. It's not like I'm bragging. You could move on social media and do the verifications, probably, but others, it's a question, because some were manned by journalists, but they were worst to fellow journalists, which is a call for concern. So I think we need to understand that the media is a food estate, and wherever they are, we need to give them that preference. Even if you don't have money, at least talk with them. There's a way of presenting. When you become arrogant, a journalist, I think because you think you are manning a presidential team, it's not a very good picture.
Let's stay in the press. Yesterday, candidate Ndifo Franklin Afangwe granted the press conference at the party headquarters in Bonaberry, that is at the Douala 4 municipality. What is the major message of the candidates in his first outing after the October polls?
Well, you know that the press conference put in place by candidate Ndifo Franklin Afangwe came after a series of questions at the background as to why he sees mute. You know, a man of God who is not a politician, we have been telling people, who keep on saying it till their kingdom come, and does not even dream of becoming a politician rather, but being at the level of leadership. And so there have been a lot of questions at the background. Why is he mute? We want to see whether he would come to, is he would CPDM, is he which direction? And so the press conference came in to broke the situation or answer the question that many had in their minds. And the message was very clear that as a man of God, peace is primordial in his agenda. And when we're looking at it, we'll observe at the level of the party that no matter what we're working on at the level of the political agenda for the country, the peace of the people is at stake, meaning that the consequences of what might happen, surely if we have to clash as a result of the presidential election, might not be too good. I remember that I, for example, come from an English-speaking area where it's a war-torn area, and you know, he said in his speech that it's easier to begin something, but you don't know when you will end it. And so he was simply calling on Cameroonians to stay calm. Parties are agitating, yes, some candidates are agitating, yes, but his appeal was, in as much as people complain about the institutions and all the like, but the appeal was, if people could be calm somehow while waiting for the outcome of the results put in place by the Constitutional Council, it will be able to do us a lot of good in terms of living in peace. So as a peace ambassador, he was more on that. But one thing was clear in his message, that so long as the results are transparent, so long as the results set whatever will be the outcome of the results.
Thank you so much. Can we say the refusal of the candidate to take the 15 million for campaign affected the campaign process?
Well, for us, it did not affect. Why do I say so? First, I became very crossed in the press conference organized by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Atanganji, a few hours, 2 hours after the closure after the counting of the votes. That said, apart from MRC, all other political parties took 15 million. Now, we are still working on that because we don't know if somebody went behind on behalf, but what we say is that men of God don't mix their words. The man of God said, we did not take 15 million and we did not take as we speak now. And so, that's what I wanted to clear the air because people have been calling me, but we heard the Atanganji said only MRC did not take. Now, we did not take, but then God gave us the means to move around the region for the campaign. We spent quite much more, millions upon millions, but I think it's God because if you ask us where we got the money from, we don't have reserves somewhere, but I think people who bought the idea that a man of God should come in assisted us and were able to go through. So in real sense, it did not hamper the process as per se. We think that the level of MCNC, we did our own job, and what we do now is that we leave the rest to God.
Thank you so much to God and equally to the Constitutional Council that will be proclaiming the election result. Just to mention to you that are watching us that you can equally listen to us through Bui Community Radio Station in the northwest region of the country. Let's get what the newspapers have been writing about this week as you tell us more.
The 2018 October 7 election and post-election declarations dominated newspaper headlines this week. La Nouvelle Expression, Le Messager, The Post, The Guardian Post and many other dailies carrying the story of Professor Maurice Kamto declaring himself winner of the 2018 presidential elections. La Nouvelle Expression presents the reaction of CPDM party, hierarchy and government spokesperson Issa Chiroma Bakari. To Jean Kwete, SG of the CPDM, the move of Kamto is unlawful and demonstrates political immaturity. To Issa Chiroma Bakari, Cameroonians should not heal to the call of Maurice Kamto for post-election violence. To Sun newspaper, government of CPDM mobilized people and groups to denounce the call of Kamto to recognize him as president. To L'Indépendant newspaper, Kamto is on the red line of politics. La Météo thinks Kamto won election just 2 out of 8 divisions in the west region of Cameroon. The Post newspaper writes about Maurice Kamto but focuses on the threats of his party to drag CRTV and Paul Atanganji to court. Kamto's party says CRTV propagated fake news of fake Transparency International election observers, while Paul Atanganji might be sued for proclaiming that MRC did not have representatives in polling stations. Le Messager newspaper presents a report of the National Episcopal Conference in October 7 polls. In the document signed by Archbishop Samuel Cledel, the bishops decry several irregularities during the polls, ranging from multiple voting, harassment of observers, and the absence of party representatives in some polling stations. The Episcopal Conference equally decried voting in illegal polling stations in chief palaces in the central region. 5% participation rate in the northwest and southwest during election. La Nouvelle Expression says International Crisis Group gave the statistics stressing that many stayed in their homes because of insecurity. The Post and Guardian Post newspaper handles the kidnapping of Mayor John Donatus of Kumbo Council by Restoration Forces. The mayor was taken at Sabga Hill between Dop and Bamenda. We end in sports, where La Nouvelle Expression writes that Fecafoot Normalization Committee has finally adopted the text to run Fecafoot.
Thank you so much, Morindi. Just this information coming in, Cameroon tops the list of human rights abusers at the United Nations Human Rights Council. The United Nations Watch or Human Rights Watch says Paul Biya comes slightly above many other countries. The percentages are as follows: Cameroon 91%, Eritrea 83%, Somalia 88%, Bangladesh 92%, as well as Philippines 85%. We shall be coming to details of this information in our subsequent programs on Canada English. Time for us to start our main topic for today, Monday the 8th of October. After the elections in Cameroon, Professor Maurice Kamto of the MRC party mentioned that he have scored the penalty that Cameroonians assigned him to kick. This raised a lot of confusion as many political parties started reacting, most especially the government that described Professor Maurice Kamto as a tribalist, calling on Cameroonians to go down the streets and force President Paul Biya out of power. We have Barrister Don Christopher here. You are the Secretary General of the MRC party. What prompted Maurice Kamto to declare himself winner of the 28th presidential elections?
Thank you very much. Maurice Kamto did it in public. Everybody heard him, the press, national, international, heard him very clearly. And you remember, Cameroonians will remember, everybody saw him. When you see on a campaign period, Maurice Kamto was with a ball. Maurice Kamto was with boots. Maurice Kamto was with jerseys. In fact, he was playing a political game. He was in a political terrain, not the football, the normal football that we know. That football symbolizes some action that will take place, and that the Cameroon Renaissance movement was in for real business, political business, and that we discovered and quoted that bad game has been blown. In every football match, you know, when you play badly, they will blow a foul. There is a foul that has rocked this country. Maurice Kamto was going around with a football, and only a football that is deciphers that foul, either to success or not to success. When he took that ball around the country, everybody saw it. And today, he says, after the 7th, after the election, he says, I have been called up by Cameroonians to take the penalty, like in a football match, when there is a fault, they call on whoever will strike the penalty. He says, I will kick that penalty without my leg trembling. Give me that confidence, I will kick the penalty. And after the 7th, he came out and made a public speech. I have scored the penalty. The net, that is the net of the goal, is shaking. It's shaking. You see, when he spoke like that, the net started shaking. The net was shaking. People were coming out. These were talking.
The political net you are talking about.
The political net was shaking. It vibrated and people were shaking. That is Kamto. Kamto is a mover and shaker in the political landscape today. I want to tell you that he is a professor of law. He can't go against the law, because if you look at all of our programs, all of our sayings and our catchwords, we said we want to do politics in peace. We want to do politics through the ballot. We want to do politics differently. So if people think that they need to hear the words that has been conventional, every day they say this, say that, he has put those words differently. He has scored the penalty. Interpret it the way you want. Maurice Kamto scored the penalty. And for those who decided to come out like loudspeakers, Maurice Kamto did not invite them. The first person that I knew when we started polling by evening, reporting results with figures, I saw Vision Card calling figures and places. They have never been challenged. CITV calling names, figures, and this, they have never been. Maurice Kamto did not talk of any figure. He said, I have scored the penalty. And that penalty, the people knew from his election, and now they are finalizing it the way he is thinking. This is doing politics differently.
That is the second question.
Maurice Kamto has not, by his saying I've scored the penalty, have not stopped the divisional commission anywhere in the country to continue with the vote counting. Has not stopped the National Commission anywhere in the Republic of Cameroon to continue the counting and proclaim results. And let me tell you that he was in line with Section 113 of the Electoral Code, which states, that code, that section states that results after the end of voting, results are proclaimed publicly, in public, by the president of that electoral poll. And to tell you, and rebut evidences or saying by people saying that we were not all over, if we say we have scored the penalty, it is because that public announcement was made all over the territory of this country where Cameroon Renaissance movement was present. And today, when we sum up in our Quartier General, we see ourselves victorious. And he is now proud to come and say, I scored the penalty. Now, let me tell you, when the law says make public an election, you cannot, as I will go by the words of Justice Ayapor in his write-up after that, he said you cannot make a public statement public. Meaning something is public. You cannot turn around and accuse another person for having made it public. So that is the concern.
Right.
I now address myself to Cameroonians to go to section 113. We agree that, let me finish, it's a legal implication. Yeah. We agree that 113 of the Electoral Code says presidents of polling stations should declare election. Meaning it is the démembrement, that is the arm of the Constitutional Council undeclared to do declaration. So the code as it stands today as I speak has two areas where they should declare elections. One, at the level of the polls, two, at the counting commission, and does not stop. There is nowhere it stops everybody to be happy. You see, when they score a goal in a football match,
yes,
everybody runs into a frenzy. While waiting.
Will come back.
Listen now, listen. Let me finish. Everybody goes to a frenzy, and that is why you saw the people came out in public. Nobody instigated anybody. There is no tribalism there.
We'll come back to you. We still have enough time. Let's find out from you, Civic.
I'll come back.
Do you think your political presidential candidate Joshua Osih, in the Social Democratic Front, have you noticed any lapses as far as the declaration of Professor Maurice Kamto is concerned in connection to the electoral code we have in Cameroon today?
No, the thing is that there are many ways you can interpret it. But what I would say is that we are in a situation of state of no law. First know that. And when the state, the custodian of the law, in reaction to this in other competing firm like media firm, I say, look, when you look at the electoral process from the convening of the election by the president till that day of the voting, you see the sum of violation by the administration, the government. But now when Kamto comes and declares just one thing, even knowing that he had been part of the government and he knows very well what to do, they now get up and nobody said about number one thing. The posters that were being posted randomly by the ruling party. And there are provisions of the law where the ELECAM, which is a démembrement of the Constitutional Council, had to come in and make recadre and say, no, this is a dimension. They didn't say it. Another one, let me tell you that is funny to me. There's a law saying you don't give the tendencies after the polls. But when do we have the law that accredited institution to give you opinion polls? That we started having institute a sondage that the Minister of Territorial Administration published that, look, those are tendencies prior to the election. When the law is there giving provision that no, there are no tendencies after the election, there's no way there should be tendency before election. It has no sense. It simply means that the two parties here, Maurice Kamto has been the member of the government, they know what they're playing on.
What are they playing?
No, they're playing on the institutions that affect that we know. Those institutions, they don't represent anything. The SDF has been crying for a long time, fighting administratively. You remember that the SDF at the last minute thought that the polls or the polling stations should be removed from the military headquarters. It was done. The SDF has an approach now which is administrative, which is Republican, than confrontation and whatever you find it. But anyhow, we are in politics. Any means is always better for the political party to use. The only thing I can criticize Kamto is that the only pedagogy. There's no way, just less than 24 hours, because when you close the poll, from the time they close the poll, 6 o'clock, and the time he made his declaration, I can tell you that was not yet 24 hours. I would have wanted a political matured person to allow certain indicators that he will get from his party, not to proclaim yourself, not to revindicate a victory, and then after you start asking for cancellation, you would have waited for 72 hours.
It means you see
to get some indicators of irregularity.
You see some,
so that by the time you are making your statement,
meaning you see some political immaturity in the statement, right?
No, there was political immaturity because for me, some few hours after he introduced something. No, we are talking about, you're talking to Cameroonians. That's why I said the MLC is a party of elite. They should know they're talking to ordinary Cameroonians who are not lawyers like him.
Okay.
So let me finish. No,
Yeah.
when he takes time,
Briefly.
don't talk.
Go
I'm
ahead.
not
Go
talking
ahead.
because I'm not an elite lawyer.
No, go ahead.
Because I don't know the
No,
law.
just-
So
no,
I'm saying that, I'm simply saying that when the MSC is talking to, they should understand that they're not talking to the cream of lawyers that they have in their party. They're talking to ordinary Cameroonians from Jakiri who do not know the law. The guy is waiting as an elector, somebody who elected MSC is that you confuse him by declaring Monday that, I think that I scored the penalty, and then an element that you had to incorporate before declaring comes 48 hours after saying that, look, they have to cancel the election in some area. For me, that declaration would have incorporated that so that it becomes politically correct.
Thank you so much. Time for Elvis.
But let me end something. But
You
we
just
are
ended.
not opposing an opposition.
I know.
If people were in a frame of opposition, no opposition should be against a party that has to win because it was opposition. The only thing I see is some arrogance from senior people from MS to say the SDF has failed. But if those people were really politicians, they will understand that it's true. They will understand that and they're Anglophones, that when the Anglophones are in war and they have not voted, and you are championing MSC and you're happy, that and saying SDF, what about the fight that SDF done since 1990?
Okay.
Changing laws and everything. Okay.
I hope I've given you enough time to explain your point. Time for Elvis, the CPGM, that is the CPGM Secretary General Jean Kwete, and equally the Minister of Communication. They describe Professor Maurice Kamto's action as political immaturity, calling on Cameroonians to go down the streets and cause chaos. Is that your reading too?
Well, it's a good question you are asking. Now I'm answering as a political analyst because I want televiewers to understand the role I'm playing here. As I said earlier, I'm giving the role of my presidential candidate for Franklin Afani, which was that of peace. But then, now I'm talking as a political analyst, and that's where it becomes a little bit different because I've been on the ground to find out exactly how the issues are operating. Now, when you look at it, first thing we must let Cameroonians know is that when a government should be prepared to dance the consequences of the music that comes after the law. I am saying without mixing words. I will say today, I will say tomorrow, and the day after. What am I saying? In real terms, when we're clamoring on the issue of 15 million, well, the government minister said, since as the law did not specify the amount, well, it could be 5 million, it could be 2 million, so you are supposed to be grateful for 15 million. Well, that's morally upright. Someone who knows what election is all about knows that 15 million is more of an insult. Anybody, so that is what they call moral judgment, which is not even found in the law. Therefore, it was a deliberate act not to put the amount, so the government could handicap opposition parties by giving them whatever meat they could give, while they have access to the government treasury. That one is that one. When they came down to this issue of the law, 137 talks about the Constitutional Council being the only person, electoral code. Now 133 talks about you have the right to publish the results for police station.
The result trains.
You discover two issues are conflicting now. Now what happens? It
No,
becomes
they are not conflicting. The proclamation.
Please let him
No,
talk.
wait,
Let him talk. He's in order. He is in order.
No, let me talk.
No, you should not stop him. Let him talk. Give him right of audience.
He's
not Give him right of audience. He is talking. You stopped him.
No, let's go ahead.
You stopped him. You don't intrude.
I didn't stop him. That's how
Take your patient, take down notes.
No. I am not in the classroom.
Take your patient and take down
I'm not in
notes.
the classroom.
Then don't stop him.
Let's allow Tayo explain his point, please.
Are you not used to debate? You are not used to debate.
Barrister, let's
I didn't
permit
come here
him.
for you.
Let's
I
permit
came here, this is the
him.
moderator.
Please,
Yeah, okay.
It's okay.
Maybe I learn. All right.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Just be with us because
Go
we are
ahead.
unveiling
Just
the
go
issues as
ahead.
they
Time
say.
for Elvis.
All right, so when you look at one saying that only the Constitutional Council has a right to, while 133 tells you that you have the right to publish the result publicly as per polling station. Now, two issues are in place now. It becomes an issue of interpretation of the law. And now, he who understands the law better takes the higher position part at the level of interpretation. And that's the most why I told people that when Maurice Kamto made a declaration, it would not have been news if people stayed mute. I repeat, it would not have been news if people stayed mute. But because he spoke, and people, I call them groundnut politicians, people who have lost credibility. That's political gangsters with political, people who don't have political credibility, came in now. Everybody wants to satisfy the regime by saying that he is against Maurice Kamto. Even the G20, those I know they are dirty deals. Therefore, the point here is that I said it clearly, and I'll keep on saying that they risked putting this country in jeopardy. Because the man who said it and stayed him. Others have come. Another fake organization says they are suing him in military court. And everybody now is looking for popularity. Why could they not stand at the forefront? Another question is, if Maurice Kamto came in front and said, I have lost this election, wouldn't that be news?
No.
Nobody would have prosecuted him for making public declarations. But now that is victory. People are coming. That's why I said that my issue might not be too much with Maurice Kamto. It will be with the whistleblowers. That's what my problem is. My problem is with the whistleblowers. If Jean Kwete came up, he's talking as a leader of the party, I could permit him because it concerns him directly.
It's true.
But the only people that are far behind, not having direct connections, and misinterpreting it. But then, when Maurice Kamto talks about Maurice Kamto and giving adjectives, still is another political immaturity on his part. Because if you are mature in that aspect, there are terms you don't use, there are terminologies. When you start, because the terminologies Jean Kwete use is throwing words directly. Maurice Kamto has not thrown word to anybody, as per se, in terms of direct attack. Therefore, we are saying that people behind the political scene want to light fire and put us into chaos where we are not supposed to into chaos. Therefore, in my own humble opinion, as Cameroonians are getting us, Maurice Kamto has made his declaration. If he violated the law, there are law courts. The law should take its procedure. He should be prosecuted accordingly. I don't know if the state is still going to prosecute him, because that's what I'm expecting if they say it's wrong. But the ranting, the public ranting, today press conference here, we have had about 7 press conferences since that day. It means that we are instead trying to confuse the public, which we will also be held accountable if disorder begins. Disorder begins today. I'll pick G20. All those are had press conferences because they helped to put hot fuel in the flame already. And therefore, what we are saying is that in a political system like this, let us be mature by saying that we allow the Constitutional Council. Maurice Kamto did his declaration. Probably he has his evidence that are to his chest. CPDM Kwete made his own declaration. Probably they had their own evidence. Now, you realize as a journalist that the United Nations State Department, the US State Department has also cautioned the Cameroon government, that's Elections Cameroon, and the Constitutional Council to make sure that they publish the result per polling station. It has never happened. Meaning that 24,980 something police stations results 88 has to be published per polling station. It has never happened. If this is coming in, it means there is something along the corner that we are not really seeing. But we are seeing here that as political analysts, let's not take side, because if we take side, we will help put this country in jeopardy. And when it starts, you will not be free. Even the man who's making these press conferences will not also be free to say that Maurice Kamto has said A or B or C. I will be right back.
Prince Ibaka, you are a journalist. Many people expected that after the declaration of Professor Maurice Kamto, political parties, most especially those who were in for the elections, will react. But the reaction of the Minister of Communication, Issa Chiroma Bakari, mentioning that the declaration of Maurice Kamto is invalid, that he was calling on Cameroonians to go down the street and fight. What is your reading to the statement of the Minister of Communication?
Dominic, let me first of all, before I get to your question, I want to tie with my brother. I think that I fear the fate of our country when these results are proclaimed. Professor Maurice Kamto, if you really read him well, he is a legal expert. It means if we want to talk in terms of law in Cameroon, very few persons will be able to match, that is, can be an equal to Maurice Kamto. I think Maurice Kamto just brought up a metaphor. He said, I've scored a penalty. A metaphor is a situation where you give your different interpretations to it. Now, the Minister of Communication comes up and says that the North region carries the highest population and claims that Maurice Kamto did not win in the North region and that Maurice Kamto should not say he has won. It is wrong. It's just because we are living in a... He said it has caused no problem. Kamto said this. If I should tell you something, Dominic, and another panelist said, what pushed Kamto into making this declaration, my own personal reading, is the fact that he feels that in the years past, elections have been rigged. He was just struggling to set an alarm to Cameroonians. I think that as per the figures I have, I think I have a majority. And Cameroonians should not. He was not calling them to war, but he just said, putting all figures together, I've won. Now, if a Minister of Communication, because as of now, he is not saving a political party, he is supposed to analyze all political parties, get their various echoes, and tell Cameroonians what they need to know. When you now centralize on a particular political party, the MRC, and you say that it is not correct for him to say he won, that somebody should win, we start asking. That is why, if you remember the other time I wrote story, I said, when are we going to separate the government and the political party? If Cameroonians, if we struggle to separate the government, because what you're having now is simple. We have a chairman of a political party and a CPDM flag bearer called President Paul Biya. The Minister of Communication is still taking his position as the spokesman for the government. Now the Minister of Communication has in front of him 9 political parties who went in for the race of Etudi. That is, they all want to become presidents. You should not give statements to Cameroonians that even the layman in the street interprets that you are favoring a party.
Thank you. Now, the Secretary General of the MRC Party, Barrister Ndong, what explains the fact that Maurice Kamto filed a petition for the cancellation of election result in 7 regions of the country, given that you have earlier mentioned that he scored the goal in the course of the elections?
Thank you. Before I delve into that question, I want to say that all those politicians who went on the race challenging Maurice Kamto, trying to fulfill the conditions of Section 113, have declared themselves failures in the presidential election. That's my reading and opinion, that they themselves have declared that they have failed, that CPDM has beaten them. That one is clear. There is no news about that. They should leave Maurice Kamto where he declared he scored a goal. Now, for Maurice Kamto to come and declare that he scored a goal and at the same time is petitioning, it is but normal, because we tell you we don't do politics for the sake of politics. We do politics to teach Cameroonians that it is wrong here, it is good here. When he made his calculations, his additions of the areas, he knew that there are these areas which he has petitioned where fraud was of its highest order. One, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement has petitioned the Constitutional Council requesting for the cancellation of elections that took place in the Northwest and Southwest region for the following reasons. You cannot hold elections under insecurity. The world over is witness to this situation. I think the Constitutional Council is put to the greatest litmus test. Litmus test is a legal term. They have been put to this test to see what decision they shall give concerning the Northwest and Southwest region. You now see the professor coming up. Now, in the Northwest and Southwest region, there were gunshots on the election day, on the 7th. It was before the 7th, on the 7th, after the 7th, there were killings. There were election rigging. They were stuffing ballot papers. We have all of those proofs. We have militants, representatives of political parties that were ejected from the polling station by the CPDM government, the police and the gendarme assisting to do this kind of odious, undemocratic act. We have all of that to support our application for a cancellation. And if we did it in the other 5 regions, it's because those are isolated cases. It is not all of the region. When they say a region, if they say it happened in the central region, it was in Yaoundé, Bureau number this. It is in the central region. That's why we call it a region. But not all of the central region. In the East region, we isolate a case there. We say they did it at this point in time. It is not all of the East region. So the fact that you people say it is all of the 7 region and we are claiming victory, it is not what we have filed. We have filed isolated cases of fraud on democratic practices which has been carried out, which the Constitutional Council should take its time to study with the proofs before it and annul those elections. And then the sum total after the annulment of those, given that we were right, the sum total still keeps us in a comfortable position.
Now,
it still keeps the Cameroon Renaissance Movement in a comfortable position, and Maurice Kamto has caught the penalty.
Barrister, you just mentioned something there that there were gunshots during the elections in the Northwest and the Southwest. Many people watching you now will think that the MRC party is just being hypocritical. Because before going in for the elections, you knew very well that there was tension in the Northwest and the Southwest. Why did you go in for the elections?
Excuse me, you see, these are some of the things where Cameroonians themselves look as if they are being formatted. You know, formatting means they have changed your brain. This government is a very bad government, does not want to do anything that satisfies the population. We had cried before, all other political parties had cried before, that don't go in with an election, solve the Anglophone problem first. But because Cameroonians will not want to distinguish between the man who holds power and the man who dictates the tune. He who dictates the tune pays the piper. They dictate the tune, pays the piper. They went ahead to
convene this election despite all calls from all political parties. I call all political parties and civil society organizations witnesses. Paul Biya don't hold elections until the Anglophone crisis is resolved. They say they can do elections with the war, civil war in the two regions. They went ahead, and there is no way a political party can stop Paul Biya from passing his decree. The only way is to write and tell him, don't do it, publish in newspapers. That we did is our responsibility. This issue of calling elections is the responsibility of those governing us. They have called it. Others have boycotted the election. We say no. This is the time we should join, mutualize force. Come as one man. Hit these people, vote them out. Some people say no. We even went as far calling Anglophone our brothers that you have fought a fight. We have understood their problem, but the only way to take this man out, since it is destined by our constitution that there should be elections, and they have called it, let us now come out and tell him that we are bitter, we hate him, we don't want you, we vote you out. Some people took us to be something else. We have managed the situation in which we are. We are criticizing that we did not fully take part in the Northwest and Southwest because of gunshots. And because of that gunshots and because of insecurity, it made the party itself not to go there for campaigns. But we had people on the grounds campaigning ear to ear, mouth to mouth. Even with that few, gunshots came and finally flew them off. You know, when you have birds on a tree, you just shoot, bam, the birds will leave the tree. That is what happened in the Northwest and Southwest. And then if they come today, Mr. Dominic, they tell you there are scores in the Northwest. And you hear with the 100%, with the that I know, my brother, look, don't bring problems to this country. Those who are bringing problems are those who are inciting the Cameroonians by telling us there was 100% for Paul Biya in the Northwest, 100% for Paul Biya or the CPDM in the Southwest. Those are the people inciting problems. So the Constitutional Council, the Constitutional Council should be the watchdog and should be very careful the way it takes on those petitions, not to anger people, because everybody, not only us as a political party, not only us as Cameroonians, the Africans, the world have seen it. They know the elections there were marked with the capital fraud of insecurity.
Yosebe Kilian, the chairman of the candidates of the Social Democratic Front SDF, has equally filed a petition calling for the total cancellation of elections in the entire territory. What are some of the facts that he has that demands a cancellation of elections throughout Cameroon?
I think the facts are very objective. That's where the difference is. And that's where the game is. We have been talking about United Cameroon, one nation. Two entities, Anglophone, Francophone. How will you be talking about unity and because of the political crisis that we know that is very grievous, which is the war? Somebody will say we should cancel partially and allow it doesn't make sense. If you want to show the Anglophone, and some of us who are Anglophone, we want maybe that the attitude of the politicians should show us that they are really one country. And the Anglophones are feeling as if they are not part of this country. And you say, okay, cancel that one and then let me win. Then I go and arrange that problem. From the beginning, most of all those political parties say we should not call this election. We should solve Anglophone problems. And we even, some of them clamor that give ourselves again 2 years, solve this problem, then we'll go on election. But the man in power who was thinking about only himself, his survivor, I don't know whether he was thinking whether he should go out fast or whether he should really stay there, decided to call for election. So the simple thing is that, for me, the SDF is just being very coherent. Institutionalized simply means that the SDF, if the SDF did not go, you know what happened in 1997 about the boycott politics that SDF. When the SDF did not go for election, the whole country said, the SDF has always been a cause. You are the cause of the fact that we did not go. The SDF won in 1992, including Kamto as a recruitment of that coalition that was campaigning, and the election were stolen. Maybe he has learned his lesson, he has want to win. There's nothing wrong with the Cameroonian to win election. Even him, sitting as the Secretary General, is a political ambition. He's already showing traceability that one day he can put the candidate and win. But what I want to say about the declaration is that, for me, from the form, it shows that our institution and laws do not have the test of time again. With the information technology system that's coming on, there is no way you will ever be staying for 2 weeks to proclaim an election. As my panelist was talking, I was trying just to make a point, was that he was saying there's confusion. There's no confusion. In any political activity, is a process. The process of publishing election can start from a polling station, it will end at the Constitutional Council. The rule of the Constitutional Council is that there might be complaints and litigation that they will counsel and so on. So it's normal. But what's wrong for council to say that one? And then at the end of it, they give him proof by the Constitutional Council to say, look, you are saying that you won, but all of us agree there are material proofs that there was fraud here. We have cancelled, and that has diminished the part that you are tallying, you are this thing. So at that level, they will justify that he didn't win. Why are we making noise around other things? Because the institution do not have the test of time, and for us, we think that this election should be a test of time for people to know that we have to reform, as people say, we reborn our institution so that we have good institutions that are turning the state of time. So people have used their Android and so on and got the result. How would they not proclaim elections? First of all, why do we have what we call institution, the sondage, to give opinion polls before the election? And was that not the trend that you were giving before? Why is it that you can give trend before and cannot give trend after? So it's a confusion of the institution. Those institutions, the laws, they don't stand the test of time. But we are now inviting, at the end of the day, everybody wants, this government have been using fake peace, always saying about peace. Peace was not, we have always told him that peace is not the absence of war. Okay. Now that war is there, I don't know what kind of peace they're talking. Because when people were quiet and hungry and there were no peace, so they said there's peace in Cameroon. Right. Of course, for long years, more than since 1987 of the economic crisis, Cameroon has never been in peace.
Let's find out from Prince Obaka, a journalist of the Constitutional Council. For the very first time, we'll be handling 18 petitions. When you look at the composition of the council, how objective can that be in the treatment of these petitions that we have on it?
Thank you very much, Dominic. I just wanted to brief Cameroonians out there on something. The electoral process has stages. We have people who vote. It means you go out there, like he said, he votes for MRC. The ELECAM, which is the elections governing body, puts the results together. These results are forwarded to a commission that is supposed to count. Now that commission hands those results they have counted to the Constitutional Council. Now there is a problem, there is a very big problem, that's what you asked. There is in that commission, there is a chairman. The chairperson of that commission is appointed by the president of the Constitutional Council. How free will he be? Question for thought. There are two judicial officials that go along with him. Those two judicial officials are appointed by the Chief of Justice for the Supreme Court. How free are they? There are 5 representatives of the administration, that is appointed by the Minister of Territorial Administration.
In this case, Paul Atanganji.
Paul Atanganji. Now, in this case, when you look at it, it sums up in one word. One of my professors, whom I hail so much, Professor Enoch Tanjong in the University of Buea, he said in his novel that he wrote from his book, he said, when he was struggling to look at media balance in Cameroon, he said the media will hardly be balanced. Why? Because he who pays the piper obviously dictates the tone. You cannot have a situation where somebody appoints somebody, somebody appoints somebody, somebody appoints somebody. If you look at the general Adi Domini, you discover that all these persons were either appointed by the head of state and somebody appointed somebody. I just simply feel that anything the Constitutional Council will bring up tomorrow, it's my own take, may not be different from what the bosses would have said. We have seen Atanganji, who has told us already that no, certain people are going wrong out of track. The Minister of Communication has told us no, this is. Now, when you have these people who are appointed by them and are supposed to answer to them, I fear that the Constitutional Council may not be that free as Cameroonians expect them to be.
Taiva Elvis, do you have the same impression?
Well, I think that from what our journalist is saying, he is quite on track. And but then it's going to be a very hard pill to swallow for the Constitutional Council. You know, we ran elections some years ago when Android technologies, all those things were absent. And you know, we are at a point in time whereby people could get to court and prove, technological wise, that what you said happened in this place is not this. This is the evidence. That's why I'm saying that in as much as these institutions are probably put in place by the state and some of the officials organized or appointed by the head of state directly and indirectly, because we have direct appointments and indirect appointment. Those who, like for those of the president of the Supreme Court, the president of the Constitutional Council, when it's appointed other persons, those persons are indirectly appointed by the head of state. Correct. Because the people who appointed their bosses are appointed by the head of state. Now, the main thing here is that from the way the things are moving, I am very cocksure that the Constitutional Council knows where we are standing. They understand the danger where we find ourselves. And so their hands might be tied, yes, but it will not be very, very tight as per se, because the consequences might not be very easy for all of us. Therefore, if I see even the U.S. Embassy insisting also that we should start getting results, cautioning, not cautioning the Electoral and the Constitutional Council that make sure that you get results published as per polling station. It's another assignment that they have given to them, which was not even in their agenda. Meaning that from every indication, they will be trying to put a fair play, but it will not be very easy because people have evidences. Dominic, just be watching. You discover that once they are reading the election on the day they are reading, Cameroon is the only country that I've seen where they take hours to read elections. It's very funny.
Almost a day.
Almost a day in the whole of the world, Cameroon reading election for hours. I've never seen that since I was born. Even in the political science and the history we're doing. So, but I'm looking at it that when you begin to put results as when it is being declared, there will be their Android phones to challenge you. Those who have evidences, they've already printed them, they're keeping. That's why I'm saying that if Maurice Kamto made his declaration, people should allow him because when the time comes, the courts, because after election results, a period of days are given. I'm sure Barrister will highlight me that they say, okay, if you are not happy, you can contest the elections. And so that's the period where those who have their evidences show to them can now put the evidences, bring the evidences forward to the competent authorities that this is where I want, but from what I got, maybe the president of the Constitutional Council reading was wrong. I think that's from where we start seeing, that's where we see another litmus test at the level of the competent institution. But what I was saying here, just to end up here, is that in the whole system, people are helping to put this country into jeopardy. Even the election observers. Some other granular election observers, after the fake ones were discovered, also held their own press conference and were saying for every nation, for every reason. Let me tell you that somebody, Organisation Internationale Francophonie, called me because I wanted to talk with my presidential candidate. Our presidential candidate became so bitter. You cannot come here staying in Hilton Hotel. You are sent by La Francophonie and you are not on the ground. The issue goes wrong. And that's the reason why in the Kenyan election, the Kenyan government stood firm. When those granular thousands of election observers who came to collect money said election was free and fair, the Supreme Court in Kenya cancelled the election because of irregularities. That's where we hear Kenya in their democratic process. But in the case here, all these charlatans who come in the name of election observers because they come and stay in hotels, I would have expected an election observer to be in Ngwa. I expected one to be in Gelemenduka. I expected one to be in Meganga. So he tells us the station there on the ground. Not staying comfortable, luxurious hotels in Yaoundé, and at the end, they host charlatans press conference and they say the elections were free and fair. So that's where the worry comes in. But then, I think we give the Constitutional Council benefit of doubt.
Let's pick up from there. Fake Transparency International election observers en masse in Cameroon. Many Cameroonians have described this as the apex of election malpractice. People not assigned by Transparency International observe election in the country. They later granted a press conference indicating that the election went through in the country Cameroon free and fair. Let me start with you, Museve Kilian. Before we talk about Transparency International and the fake observers that say they were from Transparency International, what is the reading of your political party as far as the conduct of the elections is concerned?
Before I say that, quick three things. Our able panelist said something that that people would have taken mute on the declaration of Maurice Kamto. It's not possible for a serious candidate like Maurice Kamto to say a declaration and people will stay quiet. In fact, people talking about give room for clarification to come, and we are in a communication media. So if we are doing any political, I don't see whether we would have been in a symmetry where a candidate like him, a serious candidate like him, will make such a declaration that has to do with the fate of the nation. I will not be confident. Second thing about it is that he said America is asking that they should publish election details. Elections have always been published polling station by polling station, because they have said is they take the whole day. The former Supreme Court, was it who?
Alexis
took time. I remember 7 years ago, from morning to evening, they are reading elections, polling station by polling station. I think what the America wants to convey is that fraud should not be condoned again. Fraud should not be condoned again, because it is already evident with the high tech that I even have a video on how they recruited people in a production house, election production house in the north, where they take the list and somebody is just putting stamps and signing. After that, they count the list and put one candidate in the box. So those are kind of things that material proves that he's a legalist and he knows exactly that when you complain, when you have a litigation, you must bring material proofs. Now coming to the reading on the fairness of the election.
Yes.
Yeah, for us, we went to the election knowing that the laws could not make the election to be fair. Because the two things, ask yourself the other question, those who stayed away, did they give peace and situation in Cameroon? No. we went, sometimes it's a political message that you pass. And he said it, the MSO went knowing that the Northwest was at war, they would not have wanted, but it's a political message to go on and even get preparation with some material to unveil the weaknesses of the system and then champion for. At the end of the day, I will not be surprised to see that everybody's abandoned the real cause of this election or output and they now champion for it. You remember the Anglophone problem started from corporal things and ended in the thing you don't know. So you should be very careful when you're doing political analysis. I'm seeing something that those leaders, knowing that the laws were not equitable, the grounds of the game were not, they might change when they see that they are for the election. The different revendications can come just like the Anglophone problems and we have a problem. So for me, the SDF know that they are not fair, but sometimes you always expect that there can be changes with the high tech and so on. But of course there were changes. The changes are that they will not do people with hand-pick things from the ground, whether from the remote area with Android phones. I saw it in the polling station. People were having, before then, they even said that it was going to be forbidden. That people should not go to the polling station, polling offices
with their mobile phones.
But I was very happy to see it. I hope, but anyhow, there are always some gangsters, overzealous administrators who will use their personality to intimidate people, and that's where we all political parties educated their people that they should not be intimidated. Okay. So for us, they were irregular. We know them. We know this government. The fake observers is exactly like what is happening in Freka Food. Freka Food is attempting. Government is attempting to buy CAF, buy them and impose that they want to host an African Nation Cup, and we know the power of money with this government. They can take all your money and you die all and pay to stay there.
Okay, Prince, the International Crisis Group have equally mentioned that just 5% participation rate in the northwest and southwest region of the country. Are you surprised? Some people think that the percentage needs to be lower than that.
Dominic, I strongly believe that those facts are not true. Those points, to me, they are not correct. I give you a very simple example. I was in Susa on the day of election. I covered the elections in Susa. I also covered here. I met a whole village, mile 16. The entire inhabitants of mile 16 are in Susa. They have their voters card, but they cannot vote because information said they must go back and vote where they are coming from. Who then voted in mile 16? If it is not maybe a divisional officer, if it's maybe not a police officer, if it's maybe not a principal or a delegate.
And they cannot be 5%.
Now, when you look at those figures, I always fear this country, Dominic. I think it's high time we told ourselves the truth. Because to me, as we speak, the problem in Cameroon, like my colleague was saying, is simple. We have people, a majority of even colleagues in the profession who do armchair journalism. You cannot sit in Yaoundé and report what happened in Misaje and report what happened in Ako, for instance. They were, as we speak now, people have been displaced from their homes. And those people did not vote. Where did you get figures from? Who were those who were in the field to even ensure that they voted? It means at the end of the day, the 5% I've been talking about, to me, is not even up to. I think if at all elections held in the northwest and the south, we saw figures that showed that elections held, but I believe that those who voted in these areas were actually those who were either in one way or the other concerned with the public service. Because a common man is out of the area for fear of the unknown. In the south and the northwest now, there is fear of the unknown. It means that even your neighbor can be tagged. A secessionist, like the government calls them, and the next day is no longer there. So people have run out of town for fear of the unknown, and there was nobody there to vote. The question is, who voted? Where are these figures coming from? By who?
That is a big question. Barrister, this time you answer or just like a lawyer. Many people have criticized the fact that the second personality of the country, the president of the Senate, voted in France. Is that correct?
In fact, that is barbarism, political barbarism.
Yeah.
And going by the words of the SDF candidate, he said the prime minister who registered in his village, Oku, came and voted somewhere else.
That's wrong.
That is double voting. That is first of all fraud. Number two, the House Speaker of the Senate voted in France. I would think that he was ill, and when he was caught at that point, I'm sure, I don't want to defend them in this case, it's a particular case, had registered there in France. Because it went well before the registration. Surely we're close.
No.
You attended the death of Cartier.
I understand. I am trying to think.
I'm trying to think like those Cameroonians who think that he voted there
He's
was
correcting
correct.
you.
Registration ended on the 30th of
That
August,
is-
and then he went out of the
I'm
country.
talking ironically.
After
For
that.
those who are understanding me. I'm saying that it's a crime, it's an electoral crime. And to add what my brother did not know that 5% came up. I have a cousin in prison in Boya. They should go and check. They know we tell lies. I have a cousin who was carried. He said, Daddy, I don't know where they took me to. I went and just voted. And they gave me CPD and I voted. You see, those are the evidence. I'm telling you, I'm talking on public media.
And it
Everybody's
was not
hearing.
free.
I have a cousin in prisons. And that is how they use prisoners.
Meaning prisoners
I am
voted.
counting that case. I am saying that my cousin voted CPD. He was never given 2 ballot papers. And they took them in a room where they could not see other people, but they voted. You see, that is the atmosphere in the Southwest region. Prisoners, administrators who protect their posts and galon, etc., etc.
Our Anglophone brothers.
And they don't have a choice. They are carried marshaled. They are marshaled to the polling station, or marshaled to the polling station. They will go there and deposit, and they don't vote even only once. They vote several times to give the number that will come to 5%. Those are all the electoral frauds. The Cameroon Renaissance movement is the crime. Now only those people cannot be afraid of gunshots that we are saying. Because when we shoot the thing, even birds that do not know what is a gun will fly away from the tree. That is how those in the north and south do not go to vote. So coming to another criminal aspect of those observers, I don't know how they managed to leave this country when they were dictated as until they did
press conference.
and then they left this country. It is a complicity of the highest order in criminality, the state and those people. Because they cannot tell me how they left this country. When Transparency International, with the ex and current president, says they don't know those people. How can there be 2 observers at the same time? Transparency Fake International and Transparency Local International. They decry, they say they don't know those people. How did they cross our borders? They should be at the judicial police. Where are they? They have been given the normal cover.
But they were accredited by the person who was supposed
They
to-
have been given a normal cover exit. They are gone out of the country. They should be arrested and brought. Let them come and suffer the pain of killing Cameroonians. They have assisted in killing people in the northwest and southwest region.
Thank you.
By
We
those
should be-
acts.
We should be
I
seeing
am
the
not finished
images
with
of the
those
Transparency
electoral
International
criminals.
members on
I'm
our
not finished.
screens. We should be seeing the images of these are the images.
Yeah, those are them. Armed robbers. Political armed robbers.
Yes.
You see, they came here with their white collar to psychologically
It is wonderful.
derail
It's wonderful.
our people thinking, why did the government not invite the European Union, whom I'm talking today very proudly, they were not observers. There are other credible observers, they didn't come. There is the institute didn't come, that they have been using for long. Why? It's because they had seen the machinations, political fraud, masterminded, calculated, prepared, boiled and cooked, ready to dish out to Cameroonians. You think we will sit and listen to those things? No. We are saying the elections were marred with a lot of fraud, irregularities. Their own laws were violated by they themselves. Military transporting themselves from one place to another. They will say no movement of vehicles are going in the name of trans. Why would they only be transferring military people at that period? Why would transfer be so heavy that period? And you can imagine, my brother, it is a shame to this government until when a minister is talking that somebody has said he has kicked a penalty, he starts telling you that if you don't win in 5 regions where they have won, you cannot be talking of election. You think he is talking what?
Okay, time for
Which
Elvis.
region?
Time for Elvis. The National Episcopal Conference in Cameroon equally issued a statement, a report about how the elections went on the 7th of October. The National Episcopal Conference sent down observers on the field. And one of the points they decry is the fact that there were some illegal police stations and chief palaces in the central region of the country. Have you been able to notice that as far as the level of a political party is concerned?
Well, you know, with my political party, the truth in it is that we decided to. Most of them forgot to take care of them, and that's why it's not by error when you see a man of God coming in. Normally, we said earlier that when you see him in the Bible, when you see prophets descend on the streets in the nation, it means something is wrong somewhere, and it's in a bid to correct some of these errors. And that's why we have always been honest that we are not politicians and we have never done politics. I might be a political analyst. I'm talking about my presidential candidate. In that case, and so looking at the complaints of it, irregularities will always be there. If I come back now wearing the shoes as a political analyst, the question will be, why is it that these complaints are occurring elections after elections, elections after elections? It is at this juncture that probably, from the way things are moving, that prompted Maurice Kamto to take a fast move. And I want to tell you that from the fast move taken by Maurice Kamto, and a lot of agitations show that something is cooking somewhere. And that's what I'm looking at it as a political analyst, not as my party. This is personal analysis I'm giving, and it should not be misinterpreted. And so in that case, we're now saying here that if you look, for example, when a polling station is changed for security reasons in the case of Northwest Southwest, the next question we ask, what happens to the electorates who are supposed to vote in those areas? For example, you go to Bamenda. Now, in Tarikon, the police station, some of them were shifted up to a station. Now, Neil John Frudy could easily move from Tarikon to up station. But are you sure a mother, a father with insecurity could trek from Tarikon, given that vehicles are not supposed to move on that day, to up station? Meaning that some people's rights have been deprived, while others have the right. Just like Niad could vote him abroad, at random. I am entirely displaced. I did not vote. I am entirely displaced. I did not vote. In my village, I registered there some years ago, but where am I? I did not vote. That's the truth. You understand? And I knew that the law did not permit me to vote as per se. But the question is, why should there be exceptions for some people and others there's no exception? Just like he's talking about the case of my esteemed people flooding Susa. It means that there's a crooked mechanism put in place somewhere. This is political analysis, and I stand to be corrected anywhere. And therefore, the moment we start building aspects on truth, the better. For Maurice Kamto's declaration, or whatever the case might be, we should be able to understand that, I said it here and I keep on saying it, if Maurice Kamto spoke and nobody reacted, it would have been no event. I am repeating this. Because the reaction that has come, just like Kilani said that, no, people must stop. No. If I speak and you don't react, it's a non-event. But if I speak and you take challenges, it means there's a question mark somewhere. And when you react, you make me popular. So people have made Maurice Kamto to be popular. And that's where he is. And I'm saying without mixing words.
Are you saying he was not popular before?
No, you have made him to be more popular than the way he was, because all of you, that is a whole litany of political persons, be it from the government. Let's one thing we talk about credibility, Dominique. Yep. If you look at Issa Choluma Bakari, our communication minister, we look at our minister of the Interior Administration, they are doing their job as ministers, as per se. But when I spoke with Cameroonians on the ground, some saw them as allies to the ruling party. Why? Because the Minister of Communication has a party that has signed an alliance with the ruling party. Now, obviously, before election started, the Interior Administration boss was here in Douala, gathered bike riders and was campaigning. You get the point? So these are sensitive ministries that, under normal country, those at the head of it are supposed to be neutral. So that when you pass a judgment, people see it as a government bench putting order, and not as a politician passing behind government bench to put order. These are things that we should.
What is your take on the report of the National Episcopal Conference on the conduct of elections in Cameroon?
As my ever panelist and friend, who is wearing a dogmatic face and a political face, and sometimes I think that I get confused.
Not confused at all.
Let me come now, is the point we're talking. The fact that you have a political leader like Kamto and he makes a speech, the real political analysis that if you were a journalist and you don't write an article on that, I don't know what you would say. The only thing that we can say is excessive reaction which can pull the crowd to the other ends. That's where we should criticize people who interpreted his reaction to the extremist, or up to the extent of trying to pull Cameroon to a very precarious security situation, which we are expected to be. That one, I come out of that. The second point we are talking about
the report of the National Episcopal Conference.
One thing in political situation of Cameroon has been lack of the truth and sincerity. But you know, any denomination, which is the scholar country, is the Catholic community, can be the depositor or the custodian of the truth. And that is that report you can see as the beginning of the truth, even though they are not politicians too, because they might have been in the field. And don't forget, they are using the same Cameroonians. Some of them are from different political units, even though they are Catholic. There are some who voted MSC and so on. There might be some, but when you look at their report, at least the fact are something that they were fraud and things that they cannot expect that they should be happening in 2018 is the beginning of the church speaking the truth. And that's what we need from the church, to speak the truth. And let me tell you, you cannot use God to do politics. Even you can only be a neutral person to do that. Because when you do that, you have credibility. I was very happy to see that. I hope the other denominations come in also with that. Because the civil society and the neutral people, when they come out with this, it's going to reinforce the kind of position that we cannot start democracy in 1990. 28 years after, we have the same irregularities, the same institutions that have not been improved, and so on and so on.
We are less than 5 minutes to the end of the program. Well, less than 5 minutes to the end of the program. Barrister, let me find out from you. We are getting information that the MRC party want to sue the state media, CRTV, as well as Paul Atanganji. They are suing CRTV because CRTV propagated fake news from the fake observers from Transparency International. Is that true?
Yes, since we have been taken by the horn, we are the leading opposition political party.
Oh, you are declaring that?
We lead in all aspects. We lead in legal suits. We lead in many things. So we cannot leave the aspiration of Cameroonians watered down. Okay. We have to take CRTV to task, because CRTV some time now, has been very on CRTV, because they too are involved in propagating false information which is punishable by the law. And of course, for them to come and show to Cameroonians fake people, meaning the investigative journalists that they are, they have failed. And that they're supposed to be, they have failed. We want to prove to the world and Cameroonians that nobody is above the law. And you don't toy around with Cameroonians. You don't play with us. Because when you insult the intelligence of Cameroonians, you are in deep shit. So we have to put them to task. Let them get their legal battery on. We'll put ours on and see, and tell us why they decide to connive. It's a conspiracy against the Cameroonian people. So they have to answer. They have to answer to those charges. You don't take any crap, Dick, Tom, and Harry, and put on air and let him come and fool Cameroonians, because the trust that we have for them, the moon action against them, that one is confirmed. And of course, not only them, there are others who follow suit. So I want to come back to the Episcopal message. You see, the church is, they have killed several priests. They cannot give a vivid, concrete information as to the death of Bala. Why are they keeping it? They should come out as priests. They have a moral responsibility to the population. Who killed Bala up to today is in the limbo. Who killed the other priest is in the limbo. They're only fighting to come and talk about elections. They should talk on everything, because they owe us that moral duty. They owe us that moral fact.
But we don't expect the church
well, we don't expect the church. We don't
elections.
expect the church to be silent. But then I appreciate their records on the findings on elections. It is a generalized message. That is why we say when something is public, there is no need for you to come and make it public. Public is public.
Time is no
so we all know elections have been rigged, but institutions like the church, when they come in, it gives more credence. So I give kudos to the Catholic Church and other churches that have talked on the elections, fraud and all of that, the malpractices. I adopt my heart for them, but they should tell us how their priest died.
Thank you very much.
The bishop died,
priest,
and some others.
Last word before we go. We are running out of time.
Yeah, Dominic, just in line with what he was saying, I think that the Catholic, I personally attended a press conference by Monsignor Samuel Kleda. He said, and he was very brief, he said, Cameroonians, as you prepare to go out to vote for a politician who is going to solve the political, economic, and social problems of the country. Those were his 3 words.
Thank you so much, Prince, for coming, for accepting our invitation.
Dominic, it's a pleasure. We look forward to sharing other moments.
MRC, Secretary General of the MRC Party, and the equally lawyer, defending Ayub Tabichilo Siseko, and others. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you. We'll call on Cameroonians to be calm and let us wait after 15 days. What will be the fate of Cameroonians?
From the Constitutional Council, Yusuf Kilian, thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you. Just to correct Barrister, we are already 8 days more for the recognition of the results. I think the first 7 days we've seen the way politicking is making Cameroonians are ready to defend their roots, and we hope that it's going to happen so that the real situation should prevail.
Exactly.
Time for Elvis.
Yeah, just to call around my presidential candidates who calls on everybody to be law-abiding and peaceful, and to be very, very patient and wait for the Constitutional Council's result for the sake of peace. As a peace ambassador, for Franklin Afani. Greetings to you all.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. To all of you who watch us, all our technicians, we thank you so much for being there. If you miss out anything today, watch the rebroadcast of this very edition of the program Newsroom tomorrow, Sunday, from midday to 1:30. I am Dominic Memengwa Kimo. Wish you a nice weekend.